What's up, everybody, and welcome to Real Estate Unlimited, where we provide you educational news and updates going on in the real estate community here in the Triad of North Carolina. And today's topic, we'll be talking about Open Doors Brokerage LLC and the what the commission has done to suspend them, and yet then unsuspend them in this market. And we're going to have some amazing guests here. James Franklin and Evelyn Olivares is joining us, and we may have some special guests. But first, here's our countdown. All right, we're back, guys. James, how are you doing? Evelyn, how are you?
Doing great.
Good. We're doing well.
Good to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, so I just wanted to talk about this and just a little bit about what OpenDoor is and what has happened. This happened back in March 10th, 2022. So this happened this past month. Commission suspended the firm's license of OpenDoor Brokerage LLC for a period of 18 months, effective March 10th, 2022. Then it says the commission then stayed the suspension effective March 10, 2022. And pretty much what they did is, as long as their agents did continuing education classes, they allowed the firm to continue to sell homes because there's so many of them in the market, and the market is in such a crisis. And I know another firm that has happened to, a bigger firm. And then we're going to go over a little bit what they did. But just to let you guys know and give you an update, we have in the Triad MLS, and James, I searched this. In the Triad MLS, we have 32 agents in our MLS that is with OpenDoor, and the majority of them are out of state. Mm-hmm. They have 35 listings. The company I'm with, Keller Williams out of Kernersville, we have 26 listings. Mm-hmm. They've got more listings than our company.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, why is that? I'm assuming that's because they buy the houses. Is what I'm assuming.
I would think that the answer to that is multifactorial. We can't point to any one indicator. I think one that glares out at me is that with OpenDoor, when they purchase the property from an owner, it's a very quick process. And because it's quicker, just because of the speed at which they can transact, it allows them to accumulate an inventory quicker than, say, a conventional agency would. That's one thing that just readily comes to mind.
Gotcha. I see. And I can agree on that. I'm going to talk a little bit about what they did to get reprimanded. And it's what we talked about earlier today, James, or last night. Let's see here. Photo insurers, all material. So broker failed to ensure that the seller's clients addressed all material issues noted on the previous buyer's home inspection reported prior to listing the property, and or failed to disclose any outstanding material items which were not correct. So apparently this house was under contract before. It fell out of contract. There was material facts brought to the listings agent attention, who worked for OpenDoor. They did not present those material facts when they went back under contract. So that was strike one. Mm-hmm. Strike two, failed to pull the septic permit prior to listing the property of a 5-bedroom property. Listed it as 5 bedrooms. The septic permit shows that it's good for 3 bedrooms. So that's false. That's
false information.
False information.
Well, that looks like some willful misrepresentation, which is the most harsh
Mhm.
type of fraud. You've got 4 types, but that seems like that appears to be the most heinous.
Yeah, and then number 3 is seller. They LO broker vendor. Um, Open Door Brokerage hired vendors to get rid of an outdoor pool. The vendor then buried a lot of the parts, the pool parts. They buried it underneath the earth,
What?
and they failed to remove all the items. They buried them, and the homeowners found it, and they reported them. So they were supposed to remove the pool, and they removed part of it. The rest of it, they just buried it. The third
It
party.
seems like that hiding something appears that to me, I would say that that's probably willful omission because they didn't tell something. So there was no misinformation given, but there was a willful act. So with the bedroom situation, that appears to be a willful misrepresentation. They deliberately misrepresented, deliberately conveyed information that was not true. And then the other instance appears to be willful omission. There was a deliberate omitting or deleting or not including or not submitting of information, such as the hiding of that equipment. So that's 2 types of fraud I'm looking at right there.
Mm.
And those, if it's willful, whether it's willful misrepresentation or willful omission, and you've got negligent misrepresentation, negligent omission, but with that willful business going on, those are the ones that are like the more stringent fraud types of fraud, the ones that are stronger, that are carry heavier weight, I would say, so to speak. As far as OfferPad getting the slap on the wrist and being able to continue practice, well, I've got my thoughts on that as well.
Absolutely. I agree with you, James. So I wanted to talk. Evelyn, you were saying earlier, right before we hopped on here, about someone doing a transaction with.
Yeah, with a builder, of course, I'm not going to mention the name. I believe it was OpenDoor. So as you were saying, I know that once they, if there's a seller, I guess, that needs to sell that property as soon as possible, that's when OpenDoor comes in. This is a case where they have to sell the property. It's a contingency on their pre-approval. So they do have to sell. So they looked at the option with this builder with OpenDoor. They allow them to buy it. So I'm not sure since this happened. I don't know what's going to happen now. But I think part of all this that we're seeing these fraudulent actions, as James was speaking about just now, I think it's got to do it all with greed. The way the market is, the seller's market, and I do believe there's sellers out there that do have a good heart, but there's a lot of greed going on. And when there's greed, things like this are going to happen, start to come out. You want to sell that property. So that's my thoughts on that. But yeah, I do have a client. So let's see. Now that I found out about this, let's see. I'm probably going to expect a call soon to see if they're going to be able to buy it or sell that home right now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, some of the things they do that Open Door does to draw people is they send flyers out, right? And 1 second, guys. There we go.
Yeah, while you look up that, I just want to give a little flashcard review to those who don't understand the terminology of the different kinds of fraud that occur in real estate. You've got people say, well, that's mortgage fraud, that's this and that fraud, but they all are going to be pigeonholed or compartmentalized into 4 groups of fraud. The first that you have is willful misrepresentation, which is an intentional misinforming of any party involved in a transaction about a material fact. Now, a material fact is any information that is going to change or alter the buyer's judgment or decision in following through and purchasing the property. So, for example, a house that's reputed to be haunted, that's not a material fact.
It used to be that when I got into real estate.
It used to be,
Yeah.
but it's not. But and that opens up a whole new can or discussion between differences in being a real estate agent and a realtor, which people use synonymously, and they're not the same thing. But that opens up a doorway. Haunted houses. If a house is reputed to be a drug house, then that's not a material fact unless it was a methamphetamine house, because methamphetamine has a tendency to seep into the drywall and can cause health issues later on to the occupants or to future occupants. So that would be a material fact. A leaky roof that's kept secret would be a material fact. Faulty electricity or plumbing would be material facts. Fault lines in the foundational issues, that's material fact. So willful misrepresentation is an intentional misinforming. Negligent, the second category, negligent misinformation or misrepresentation rather, is unintentionally misinforming any party involved in a transaction about a material fact. So if you pass on or perpetuate as an agent, if you perpetuate or pass on wrong information, but you don't know you're doing it, it's unintentional, but it's still misinforming. So it's negligent misrepresentation. The third category is willful omission. Willful omission is intentionally failing to disclose a material fact to any party involved in the transaction. It's hiding stuff. You're not telling them a lie, but you're holding back the truth. And I know that sounds like splitting hairs, but regardless, there is a category for these things. And the fourth category is negligent omission. And that's the condition of unintentionally failing to disclose a material fact to any party involved in a transaction. So you got willful misrepresentation, you've got negligent misrepresentation, you've got willful omission, and you have negligent omission. Those are the four categories. So with that being said, and the reason why I wanted to review that stuff is because I think a lot of that lends itself to this situation with OfferPad.
I like that you brought it up, James. And that way the people out there can know these four things. And as licensed agents, we have to disclose these things. Those who are not licensed, like investors, or if you're selling your house on your own as a private seller, when you get the disclosure forms, you can click no representation so you can get out of this. We, though, who represent, have to disclose no matter what size we're on.
Right. Absolutely. Because that's what we owe our client, who we work for. Mm-hmm. And that's what we owe the customer, who we work with. So, for example, if I were representing a seller, the seller is my client because I work for the seller. I'm working with the buyer and or the buyer's representative, who's the buyer agent or selling agent, and vice versa.
Yeah. If
I'm working for the buyer is my client, and the seller that we work with, the seller is my customer. That's right. But regardless of client or customer, we owe them both disclosure.
That's right. Disclosure and material facts. That's exactly right. Evelyn, you as a lender, do you see this being an issue, material facts, with certain homes, or do you have to have a radar for material facts? Have you encountered this before? I'm just kind of curious on myself here.
I think mostly of this, applies mostly to you guys in the real estate world with open door. But of course, we do have our rules are basically the same as James was, talking about. There are certain things that we, of course, have to follow. We are individuals also that hold state licenses as well, and we have to abide by those rules. And of course, in the mortgage industry, there are certain things that we see that could be considered, illegal or fraudulent at some point. Like misinformation, hiding the material facts, of course, things like that. A borrower not stating certain things on the 1003 and then coming to find out it was false information, things like that. Of course, we have rules also that we have to abide by. So,
Yeah. And just from what I've researched, James, see, you're super busy, Evelyn. You don't stop. This woman right here, you guys want to buy a house, you need a lender, call Evelyn, okay? Mm-hmm. She is just on top of it, okay? And she took time out of her day to be on our podcast, which I'm grateful for.
There's a lot of applications going on, but no homes yet. They have a lot of borrowers looking for homes. So
I want to jump topic real quick.
I think all the loan officers are busy right now. It's just that we need some homes out there, guys, properties.
I know people list with us and not with OfferPad and OpenDoor. And James could. I want to ask you why they should list with you and not with OpenDoor. I want to ask you that here in a second.
I would say because there's an organic element involved with hiring a real estate agent and preferably a realtor. So when you're doing your research to look for someone to represent you, don't look for a real estate agent, look for a realtor, because a realtor and a real estate agent are not the same. A real estate agent is someone who's licensed to practice real estate in a state or states. A realtor is held to a higher standard of ethics involved.
Right.
In the earlier example that I gave you of a house reported to be haunted, a real estate agent is not required to divulge that. It could be the Amityville horror going on. And they say, well, I don't care. I'm going to sell it anyway. Okay. They're not required. But if you are a realtor, there's a certain nebulous, cryptic responsibility that you have that goes above and beyond what the word of the law says that you have to adhere to. You have a higher ethical standard as a realtor to put those things into practice. So if there was a house that was reported to be haunted, for example, then as a realtor, it would be incumbent upon me to say, well, look, I don't know if you believe in the occult or anything like that. This house is reported to be haunted. There's an old, a Slim Jim commercial where the real estate agent is showing the house to the couple, and the wife says, I love it. I love it. And the husband's standing behind her, and he says, no, to the real estate agent silently. He's like, no. And the real estate agent is like, I got you. And he says, he opens up a closet and he says, and this is where they hid the bodies.
That's hilarious.
So the wife doesn't want the house now.
So that real estate agent was working for the husband and with the wife.
Right. But the thing is, they were both his clients, but you want to have a balance when you're representing more than one person. And so for the greater good, he made that decision to work with the husband and to pretend as if the house were haunted, even though it wasn't. But getting back to the topic of real estate agents and realtors are held to a higher standard. So when you're doing your shopping, whether you're going to sell your property or you're looking to buy, look for a realtor. And it's not a realtor. It's not 3 syllables. It's realtor. We're not realtors. We're realtors. We're not realtors. So that's the reality of it.
Realtor.
Yeah.
Realtor. I got that realtor over there.
But the reason why I would encourage those out there, you want to hire a real estate agent, preferably a realtor, instead of going to a buyer entity, a corporation to sell for you, is because there's the organic aspect that we have ethics to adhere to. We typically do not allow things to fall between the cracks because we tend to be more inclined to be meticulous about certain things, about having an eye for details, more so than a corporation would.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
We work very hard to get our licenses, and no reputable real estate agent wants to risk losing their license, or at the very least being brought before the commission and having to state their case.
Yeah, and go against the commission. Good luck.
It's a waste of time, and it can be a waste of money as well.
Yeah.
And
You know, the offer OpenDoor will say we give you 1% to the sell. They'll take 1% and we'll give the buyer 2.5, 3%. But really, there's other fees that they're charging you. And if you add up those fees and those other charges that are not commissions, you can pay up to 6 to 7%. And it's in there in the fine print, up to 13%.
Right. And that's how they protect themselves with that clause. And lending other reasons to what you just said, Paul. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, we work very hard for what we earn. And yes, it in this area, I have to phrase it a certain way. In the Triad, Winston-Salem, Greensboro, High Point, and Greater Triad area, as well as other areas, regions, our commission is higher than 1%, unless we negotiate it down to 1% or less. However, with that being said, we work very hard for what we earn, and getting back to having an eye for details, we have a responsibility to protect our client. That is, when you hire us, you become our client, and we owe you the fiduciary responsibilities of obedience. We've got to be obedient to you. Do what you say within the parameters of what's legal. We have to be loyal to you. We have to place your benefit and your well-being even above our own. So if I find a property, and if I'm representing a buyer and I find a property that's only offering 2%, and I have other properties that are offering 3% commission, if I see that house, that property that's offering 2% commission, if I know that it's a better, more suitable property for my buyer, I'm not going to make an X mark through it and not show it to them. I need to show that to them because it matches their requirements. So I have to never mind the fact that it's offering a lower commission to me. And that's an example of loyalty. We also owe them disclosure, what we just discussed, material facts. We owe that to them. And we also owe them confidentiality. We have to keep a circle of two between them and us.
Right.
And not talk about delicate issues that they would not want to get out to other parties. And we also owe them accounting. We have to handle monies and numbers well. And that not only goes for money that's passed from one hand to another, such as down payment, due diligence, or earnest money, or additional earnest money, things like that, or negotiating the sales price, but also getting those monies to the proper parties within a specified amount of time. And also checking the closing disclosure. We actually have to check that disclosure behind the attorney to make sure they got the numbers right. And that lends itself to what you just talked about as far as what a seller, if they hire an entity like OfferPad, what they stand to lose. The numbers could be wrong. The numbers could be out of kilter. And if they are, then an agent is going to be more prone to have an eye, a magnifying glass, to check out this stuff and say, wait a minute, you double billed my seller on this. Or wait a minute, this excise tax was not calculated properly. Or wait a minute, this property tax, wait a minute, this is not right. We renegotiated to extend to give the buyer another 30 days. So we should not have to pay another 30 days of property tax. And we made it clear to you in an email.
That's right.
So we shouldn't be paying that prorated additional property tax of 1 month. The buyer should be paying that.
That's right.
HOAs, we did the buyer solid by extending the contract another 30 days. So guess what? Your buyer needs to pay for this HOA for another month. We need to check those things on the closing disclosure. And when you add up that stuff starts to add up. And the seller becomes a loser if they don't have a good real estate agent who's going to check for those things on their behalf.
That's right. And that's why you hire us,
Yeah.
That's exactly why you hire us. And then the open door claims the seller gets to pick the closing date, so to avoid open houses. And usually, that's if they're not buying the house, because a lot of times Open Door buys the house, and like we said, they tend to buy it at a tremendous price, and then they tend to list it at a tremendous price.
Mm-hmm.
I've shown Open Door properties to where the pictures were nothing what the MLS showed.
Mm-hmm.
And what James just said, ladies and gentlemen, is what we do as real estate agents. Okay, if you hire a professional, and I may say myself, I am one, to list your property, and so is James and everyone on here, you're going to get you're going to get the correct market value. If you listen to your agent, right, James?
Right.
If you list at the correct market value,
right,
we will bring you in a very strong offer, and I deeply believe more than you would if you went on your own. Yeah. And we have marketing strategies. Each agent works a little bit different. That's why you interview agents. Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer in interviewing agents, at least 3 before you decide to go with Open Door or one of these programs, or if you decide to go as a private seller, mm-hmm. and see how they're going to market your property. Okay, how many agents does Open Door know? They're not even there. Mm-hmm. Okay, ask James, how many agents do you know?
I don't.
Oh, well, you know a lot of agents.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know agents. We're the ones who know the agents, and the agents have the buyers. Mm-hmm. And we do brokers opens. We do open houses. We do videos. We do social media. We do make calls to agents to promote your home. And that's how we get deals done and sold, and you're in your best interest. If your best interest is you want to make X amount of dollars, we will bring you X amount of dollars. Yeah.
We tend to go the extra mile too, and I can't really emphasize this enough. One thing that kind of irritates me with OfferPad, I'm just going to say it, is that when I'm representing a buyer and I'm looking through the MLS and I look up a house and I see that it doesn't have the dimensions, the measurements of the rooms, I'm like, I bet you that's OfferPad. Let me scroll down. I'll be damned. That's OfferPad. They do for some reason. You will not give them. Now they don't have to. You don't have to list it. But to me, that just smacks of laziness. If anything, it's just lazy. Most agents take a measuring tape to save myself time, and for the sake of accuracy, I invested in a $75 laser measuring. And I just measure it, and in like 2 seconds, 1/1000, 2/1000, I got one measurement of half the measurement of the room, and I do it the other side, and I got the other. I write it down. I'm good to go. Okay, but OfferPad will not put the measurements. So what do I have to do? I get on the phone, because 9 times out of 10, my buyer client, they want large rooms, and I say, well, what do you mean by large rooms? I want at least a 10 by 11. Okay, so now I find a house that looks like it meets all their specifications, but it doesn't give the room dimensions. Mm-hmm. So what do I have to do? I got to get on the phone and wait and listen to elevator music, and then they put me on and they say, well, yeah, these are the measurements of this room and that room and that room. But since they're giving it to me verbally, I can't trust it because it's not in writing. So I can't trust it. So I'm going to have to go out there anyway. It's just an irritation of mine. But if you're dealing with an agent, 9 times out of 10, the agent's going to put the measurements of the room.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. Sorry, they're doing tours here at the office.
Happy hour.
That's fine.
Yeah. Evelyn, and that's pretty much what I have to say right now about this. Did I miss anything, James?
Well, I think there's a pink elephant in the room. What do you think? I mean, you guys haven't reflected on what do you think, why you think OfferPad got the reprieve on its being suspended. Why do you guys think? But they got the slap on the wrist.
I think they got the slap on the wrist because they have so much power in the market. According to the news article that I pulled, they say that out of all of North Carolina, they had up to 3,000 homes listed.
Oh wow.
So I think that's the reason why. And who knows? Are they greasing someone's palms? I don't know. Maybe, probably. Is there other special interests? Possibly. I'd like to hear your opinion as well, but I think it's because of the market pool.
I kind of think of that way also, but I'm going to suspend that belief and say for the greater good and for the benefit of the doubt of what's going on here, maybe it's because the commission is looking at the greater good, and that is the welfare of the clients that OfferPad has. They're selling these, they're trying to, you're saying grease some palms. Maybe they're trying to keep the machinery greased so that these houses can get got.
Right. So people can get
acquired, and they won't be held up in some kind of limbo because of what OfferPad has done. I'd like to think of the greater, reason, the more moral reason, than say something that's more sinister. It could be that some palms are being greased, that OfferPad has a lot of power. Those could be, but I'd like to think, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say that the commission's doing this just so they can get these houses moving.
Yeah. And I want to agree with you on there, because there's people that need houses and they don't have time to wait because they got to answer to Evelyn about getting that house under contract. And so I can see that. I mean, again, if you pull them up on the MLS, there's 32 agents, and the majority of them are not even in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So that means they don't even know the area that their client's buying. And I think, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but just as an opinion, I think it's very important, as James was saying, that a client or a buyer that wants to buy a home, or a seller that wants to list their home, to go local with somebody that actually knows the area that you're trying to sell your home in and trying to buy your home. And this is very important. It's like in our lending side. If you go to the online lender that's in New York or in California somewhere, it's someone that's been trained, maybe that, which is nothing bad, just came out of like a job from, I don't know, maybe like the DMV, and decided to go work for this lender, right? Not even trained, just to answer questions that they probably not even really they know about. They don't hold that license, right? So it's very important that you work with somebody local, somebody that is actually going to care for you, whether you sell your home, whether you find a home, and they're going to put all their heart in it. So it's very important that you guys work with these fellas here that you see here online right now, Paul and Mr. James. They could help you out, definitely, guys. If you're watching from anywhere in North Carolina, that's my little southern accent here. North Carolina, if you're watching, and if you're in the Triad area, call Paul, James, and they'll be able to help you guys out, and work with a local lender, or work with a lender that, online lenders, sometimes they'll give you a certain rate and it's not really the rate that it's supposed to, or that they told you from the beginning. And I've had a lot of clients, believe you me, that I've gotten from online lenders saying that the rate was a little different, so it's just to catch in a certain way your attention, but just be careful out there. Call somebody local if you are local, or if you're in the state of North Carolina, and work with that person.
And just lending, also, no pun intended, but lending conversation, what you were talking about, Evelyn, with agents or with lenders or whomever, do go local, folks, because even if the vendor, the professional might know what they're doing, there's certain nuances involved with going local. I'll give you a good example. I had a house up for sale a couple of weeks ago. We found a buyer. The buyer made an offer. It was better than anyone else's. I looked over the contract very carefully. We decided to take the offer. We closed on it. But in the interim, I discovered that the attorney's office was in Wilmington, North Carolina. The house was in Winston-Salem for Forsyth County. You would literally have to drive through 12 counties to get to Wilmington, to get to the county that Wilmington is in. So, and then I discovered after we had signed the contract, after it become a fully executed offer, and it was a contract, then I discovered, okay, they did have a traveling attorney, but the traveling attorney did not come with checks for my seller. Now, it's against the law for an attorney to submit a check before recording takes place.
Absolutely.
But it's not against the law for them to cut the check so they can be there so that when recording takes place, they can then give you the check if they're a traveling attorney. That's not against the law. This firm did not do either. They don't do that. So I had to, my seller agreed to having her funds wired, and that caused some delays. She had to set up an account, give the account information. It had to get wired to her, and sometimes the wiring can take as long as mail. So she had to wire. I absolutely do not believe in wiring to receive wires. My agency does not ask clients or customers to wire. So I had to sit and wait for my agency check to get mailed. And so that's just some of the things. Now, imagine if there were some complications. I probably would have, if I needed some affidavits, some notaries expedited, then I may have had to drive to Wilmington. So I bring this up to let you know that we're organic, living, breathing individuals. We learn from our mistakes. Entities don't learn from their mistakes. We learn from our mistakes.
That's a good point.
And that's another reason why you should go local, because if there are any complications, you can drive down the street.
That's right.
At least no more than 30 minutes or so to get it rectified, get the problem, remedied. Okay. But if you're going with a real live person, they're going to learn. They're going to do better next time, or do better with that same transaction.
I agree. I think that's fantastic. Good point there, James. Evelyn, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, I think it's he's right. I mean, we always promote, hey, shop local businesses. Hey, let's do our business. That's what as well.
Yeah.
That way as well. Let's lend local. Do your real estate. Find a local real estate agent that could help you. I mean, I think that if you want to be a successful, especially in the real estate business, because lenders everything mostly sometimes online. Sometimes clients will just kind of fax things to us, or they'll do their documentation online if you have that kind of system. And I'm pretty sure we all do as lenders. But I think real estate agents, it's not the same unless you lived here in the Triad. We're talking about the Triad here, the Piedmont Triad. It's not the same somebody from Wilmington or a real estate agent traveling all the way to Greensboro to show you a property where they don't really know the local area. You see, it's a big difference. They're licensed in the whole entire state, even in Charlotte. I mean, if let's not even go to Wilmington, Charlotte, or maybe Raleigh. If you're not familiar with the area, and for you to become an expert on that field, on your area, you have to know your local area very well, like you guys do, I'm pretty sure, and every real estate agent here in the Piedmont Triad. So don't go looking for anybody else outside of the Piedmont Triad if you really want good customer service. A real estate agent that could really help you understand your needs, understand if there was a road built in a certain area. Somebody from outside is not going to know that, right, James?
Right. That's
you
right.
can even lose your license if you don't actually say that there is a road that was constructed and they end up buying that house.
That's right.
So you got to be extra careful with those things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I was going to bring that up, and I'm glad you took the words right out of my mouth. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's another reason. If you don't know the area, there's certain things that you're not going to know that you should be divulging.
Absolutely.
Your ability, not just due diligence and research and reconnaissance, it's your ability. So do local, because if you get an agent and it's several counties over, they're not familiar with it, then they're being greedy. They need to be referring out to another agent.
I think so.
So go local, and if you're you are the civic minded, if you don't do it for anything else, Go local because it helps your local economy.
That's
Absolutely.
right. Mhm.
Absolutely. And, coming from the food business, we believe in going local. Going in the real estate business, we believe in going local. Anything you do, stick to local because you help out your neighbor. And that's how we are here today and able to do what we do. Awesome. James, if they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
336-978-8491. Or you can check me out on my Instagram account. I am James Franklin.
Oh, man. And the man I put in there, you don't type in that. But if you Google search the man, he may pop up, just to let you know. And Evelyn, how about yourself?
Yeah, you could contact me at phone number 336-912-0332. That's the best way. You could text me, say, hey, I've been calling you. I need to talk to you about getting pre-qualified, and I'll call you right away.
And let them know, Evelyn, that you are bilingual and she's on a radio show. You think this she's on a real radio show.
Well,
LA?
actually,
is that right? LA?
Well, no, I have another real estate agent friend of mine that he does, radio shows, and sometimes I'll go and just kind of share a little bit of information on the lending side. So I'm not actually on it every Wednesday, but I do support it, and sometimes I do participate in it. So just trying to. I'm all about educating, and I think that should be our mindset, to educate people in this process, so they can make a very knowledgeable, decision when buying a home, looking for a home, or selling. In your case, guys, when listing a home. So I think if we provide that knowledge to our community, I think everybody's going to be pretty informed and make a wise decision. Educated, wise decision. That's what we want our buyers and the sellers, right, to know.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for both being on here. And I'm Paul, your host for Real Estate Unlimited. My number is 336 area code 963-3684. You can also email me at paul7@kw.com, PAUL, the number 7@kw.com. And no, that's not K&W. I wear my badge and people are like, oh, you work at K&W? And they're like, oh, this is the big guy. I'm like, no, I'm not at K&W. Those of you listening from not in North Carolina, K&W is a delicious cafeteria that has some of the best chocolate mousse pies I have.
Is it still open? I didn't even know they were still open.
Yeah, they are. In fact, I went to the one on Healy yesterday.
Oh, really? Okay.
Queens Mill Road yesterday.
Okay, because I know the one here on East Chester Drive, Westchester, it actually closed. So
they're in bankruptcy. I don't know how much longer they're going to be around.
Yeah. I'm on a podcast.
Yeah. How about J&S? Are they still open?
Are they in Kernersville?
They're in they're in Greensboro.
Okay.
J&S Cafeteria. I think I used to go that like a long time ago. It's kind of like K&W too.
Let me call you.
But anyway, I don't want to get it off the subject. I'm sorry.
Nah, they're talking about food.
We're talking about food and stuff, and
yeah, the one on South Park off of Peters Creek, that's closed down as well.
Okay, yeah.
K&W's they're still kicking. We're giving free plugs.
Yeah.
K&W.
So guys listening, you need a great real estate agent. There's 2 of them here. You need a fantastic lender. There's 1 of them here. You need one that knows where to eat. All 3 of us can help you there.
Oh yeah. We love food, right?
Oh yeah.
So you guys, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Hey man, it was a pleasure. Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you, James. Nice info, guys. Thanks.
Oh man.
We'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Right,
Ciao.
All right. Ciao, Bella.